Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My dear brothers and sisters, welcome to Unfiltered Muslim. Today, we are humbled and we are very honored to have exactly such a person, such a scholar who's truly unfiltered, who's truly unafraid. In fact, he's the inspiration behind Unfiltered Muslim. He's the reason we started this channel to speak the truth, to give voice to the truth in a world of deception. And Sheikh doesn't know this, probably just like many of you other people around the world. I consider him as my Maulana, as my teacher. We are honored to sit with Syekh Imran Hosein, a scholar who fearlessly has been working, has opened the eyes of this ummah. And today's interview is based on his book, Jerusalem in the Quran, which he wrote for almost 25 years ago. A book that laid out a vision of the world, a vision which has come to pass exactly the way he described it. And yet, sadly, no other scholar, at least to my knowledge, is teaching this subject. So before we start, I have a question for reflection to the Islamic scholars around the world. Where's your backbone? The Ummah is waking up, and we hear your silence. Let that simmer in. And if you haven't already, please, I strongly urge every single one of you, Muslims and non-Muslims, to read Sheikh's books, visit his website, and also watch his lectures. I'm going to put the links in the description box. So welcome, dear Sheikh. Assalamu alaikum. Jazakumullah khair for honoring us with your presence.
Alaikum salam, Brother Wahid. I am very happy to have this chance to speak with you. It is today the 9th day of the month of Muharram in the year 1447, and I am in the mountaintop resort of Jandabike in Malaysia, and I believe you must be somewhere in Europe.
Yes, Maulana, I'm sitting in Sweden, Stockholm, Sweden.
You're in Stockholm in Sweden. Okay.
Yes,
So
yes.
I'm very happy to have this chance to return to Jerusalem in the Quran. And you are right, painfully correct, Brother Wahid, that this book was written 25 years ago. And it is the methodology created in vain for Islamic scholarship, and 25 years have passed without such a response. This is something not only mysterious, but something lamentable.
True. I totally agree. And I don't know if you noticed it, but during my introduction, it's painful to see that the Islamic scholars are not waking up and don't have the courage, I think, basically, to stand up for what is true and haqq. And one of our goals after actually watching your lectures, you inspired me to not only study the Quran and Hadith and everything, but also geopolitics, riba system, who's actually enslaving this world, this dunya, not only Muslims, but also non-Muslims. I was watching another lecture of you, which I've seen before, where we were talking about, they told us that slavery ended. But did it actually end? And before, it was only maybe our African brothers who were enslaved. But in the world we're living in now, everybody's enslaved by the elite and by the system. And we're so honored and so happy to have a scholar like you who's been standing alone in this war.
Yes, the world would like us to believe that slavery has now been abolished and there are no more slaves in the world. But our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, was prophesied that slavery will be in the world in the end time, in Akhir Zaman. The angel Gabriel, Jibreel alayhi salam, came to him in the form of a human being. And this was just before he died. And the angel came into the masjid in front of everybody and sat in front of him and asked him 5 questions. And he answered the 5 questions. And the angel said, "You are correct." And we were astonished. Who is this man who questioned the Prophet, alayhi salatu wasalam, and then to confirm that he's correct? Is he some kind of a school principal? And nobody knew who is this man. And when he left, the Prophet said, "This was Jibreel alayhi salam. He came to teach you your religion." And when we look at the 5 questions which the Queen Angels asked, and the answers which he gave, the Prophet gave, Allah's blessing be upon him, not only do we locate in it the vital importance, the strategic importance of Islamic eschatology, or the study of the end time, but we also find out that there is slavery in the end time, because the angel asked a question about what are the signs, the alamatus sa', what are the signs of the last day? And our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, answered and said, among other things, that a slave woman would give birth to her mistress, indicating that there is slavery in the end time. It may not be legally recognized as slavery according to their law, but it is factual slavery, actual slavery. And at the heart of that system of slavery is, of course, the monetary system and the banking system, which is saturated with riba. Keep on, go ahead.
Exactly. So true. And that actually leads me further to ask you. I have some questions, and you are always talking about the 2 types of ayat in the Quran. And also
Yes.
there is something called basira in Quran. So some things we have to research, we have to do the research, and we have to use our inner light. We have to work to make that inner light glow and understand Quran and Hadith in context. And also the study of the Quran and the ayahs is like stars, like you've been teaching us. And not everybody gets that gift. You have to work for it. And that's also the reason your book, Jerusalem in the Quran, and how you have actually managed to understand which city Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is talking about, Jerusalem, although it's not directly mentioned. So can I just ask you a question, Sheikh? You said the modern state of Israel was made possible through Dajjal and Gog and Magog, right? And today's scholars are taking the most scholars which I've listened to speak very literal about Dajjal and Gog and Magog. So my question to you is, how can Muslims recognize and resist this Dajjalic world in order, like in practical terms, in daily lives, for our Scandinavian viewers and also the European viewers? Can you please explain?
You have posed a very difficult question, Wahid. And it's not easy to answer that question in a brief span of time. At the heart of the subject of Dajjal is the hadith in which our Prophet, Allah's blessings be upon him, said, every prophet has warned his people about Dajjal. And the Prophet Nuh alayhi salam, warned his people about Dajjal. But I am going to tell you something about Dajjal no one has ever said before me. And he went on to say that Dajjal sees with one eye, the left eye, and he is blind in the right eye. It looks like a bulging grape. But your Lord is not one eye. Between his eyes on his forehead is written the word kafir, kaf, fa, ra. And every mu'min, meaning everyone who has faith in his heart, would be able to read kafir, whether that mu'min is katib or ghayru katib, whether he is literate or he is illiterate. So we ask the question, why is it that Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu, if he sees Dajjal, he will be able to read the word kafir on his forehead. But if Abu Lahab were to see Dajjal, Abu Lahab will not be able to read the word kafir. So let us send Abu Lahab to the optician or to the ophthalmologist. Examine his eyes. What's wrong with his eyes? Why is it that Abu Lahab, who does not have faith in his eyes, why is it that he cannot read? But the report comes back from the optician that Abu Lahab's eyesight is perfect, 20/20 vision. Well, then why can't he read? But this one can read, but this one cannot read. That is the question. And the answer we offer is that there is nothing wrong with his external sight. Allah says in the Quran, will they not travel to the earth? Perchance that by traveling, their dead hearts might come alive. And Allah goes on to say, it's not the heart which is blind. No, it is not the eyes which are blind, sorry. It is not the eyes which are blind. No, it is the heart which is inside the chest. That is blind. In other words, the Quran is telling us that we have two ways of seeing. We have external sight and we have internal sight. And from this, it is possible for us to now interpret this hadith. And we gave this interpretation 20-something years ago, that when a Dajjal sees with his left eye, this symbolizes external sight. He's good in his external sight. He's excellent in all knowledge which comes from external observation, scientific inquiry, experimentation. But when Dajjal is blind in his right eye, it symbolizes internal blindness. And the mu'min can see because the mu'min can see with his eye, his heart. And the kafir cannot see because he's internally blind. And therefore, the warning which has come from this hadith, from this prophecy, is epistemological. That the most dangerous attack that will come from Dajjal is not the attack in the world of money, not in the banking system, not in the feminist revolution, The most dangerous attack of all which has come from Dajjal will be epistemological, an attack on our capacity for internal knowledge, knowledge which is internally received. And this is the problem with Islamic eschatology today and with most of the Ummah of our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, and the most of mankind. The world is comprised of two kinds of people today. There are those who have eyes and can see, and Wahid. There are those who have eyes and yet cannot see. I cannot give sight to the blind. For that world of Islamic scholarship, which still cannot realize that Dajjal is the one who brought modern Western civilization into being, that it is through Dajjal that the world got Pax Britannica and Pax Americana, and we are now witnessing the emergence of Pax Judaica. For that world of Islamic scholarship, which cannot realize it, my response, Wahid, I am sad to say so, I cannot give sight to the blind.
Of course, Maulana. And this is Unfiltered Muslim, and I totally agree with you. And so I just have to ask you this. Why do you think they are overlooking like the mainstream scholarship? Why are they overlooking this question? Even when the Ummah is waking up, the Ummah is waking up. Me as a normal person, I'm not an alim, I'm not an ulama, and we can see this.
I wish I knew the answer, Wahid. Maybe the generation that comes after me, when Allah calls me away from this world, might be able to answer you more extensively than I can. But at this time, I want our listening audience to remember, our viewing audience to remember, that our Prophet, Allah's blessing be upon him, made a prophecy pertaining to Islamic scholarship. It's a hadith which is located in the Sunan of Tirmizi. And I hope I'm not wrong that it was narrated by Ali radiallahu ta'ala anhu. If I'm wrong, kindly correct me. He said, Yushiku an ya'ti ala nasi zaman. It will not be long before that time will come. La yabqa min al-Islami lasmu, when nothing will remain of Islam but the name. The banana is gone. Only the fig leaf, the banana skin remains. Nothing will remain of Islam but the name. وَلَا يَبْقَى مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ إِلَّا رَسْمُهُ. And although the Quran is still in the world, all that remains of the Quran is the external form. It is mechanically recited. It is not studied. It is not understood. He went on to say about that age, مَسَاجِدُهُمْ آمِرَةٌ وَهِيَ خَرَابٌ مِنَ الْهُدَى. That the masajid, plural of masjid, would be grand structures, multi-million-dollar buildings, but devoid of guidance. Devoid of guidance. So if you are impressed by numbers, yes, the masjid is packed, but there is no guidance. But then he went on to say about that age, and these grand masjid filled with people, but no guidance. He said, ulama'uhum, that the religious scholars of Islam at that time, the Maulanas, the Shuyukh, the Muftis, the Ustad, Ulama'uhum sharrun nas. They would be the worst of all people. Sharrun nas mimman tahta adib sama. The worst people beneath the sky. من عندهم تخرج الفتنة وفيهم تعود. They will be the centers of corruption, responsible for the corruption of the Ummah. Our critics rush to argue this hadith is da'if. This hadith cannot be accepted. Whereas there are others of us who say, but this is exactly what we live with today. Our Prophet has spoken the truth. And so I am offering to you, Wahid, one possible explanation. And that is, we are living today in the age prophesied by our Prophet that this day will come when the scholars of Islam will be the worst people beneath the sky. The question still remains, well, how did they reach to that status? What is it that caused them to become like this? Then one possible answer, when this cannot be an answer that is valid for all of them, one possible answer is that the way you make your bed, you will sleep in it. The way you make your bed, you will sleep in it. If you betray the truth, one day you'll pay the price for that betrayal. I think I would want to stop there, because the rest of the answer takes us into a long discussion on methodology for the study of the Quran and what is the role of the Darul Ulum today in the world of Islamic scholarship.